mire. Fala, ¿eso qué fue?
Come on. Hello. Good morning. We are running on time. Welcome, everyone, to this open talk to the development team of GeneXus. For those of you who don't know these mechanics, we've come to listen to you. We're going to introduce ourselves first, and we are going to ask you to ask us questions, to make suggestions, to praise us. My name is Ana Berta. I'm the Pro Manager of GeneXus. I work in IDE part with modules and the creation process of the version. So I'm going to start on my right. Armin Bachmann, Manager of GeneXus. Oh, come on, a little bit louder. Yes, it's a morning voice, right? You slept late. Production, documentation. José Lamas, Product Manager of GeneXus Platform. Eugenio Garcia, Product Manager of GeneXus for SAP. Gustavo Martinez, I'm in the reporting side and data. Gaston Milano, I'm the development team of GeneXus in general. Andrés Cardelino, I work with web generators. Damian Salvia, I'm in charge of artificial intelligence of GeneXus. Hello. Maximiliano Garnet, I'm working in down GeneXus. Grompone, I'm a security analyst. Gustavo Brown, I'm with the specifier. Diego Scafo, I'm with chatbots. Good morning, Marco Cristino, and I'm in the generator of iOS and testing. Just one? We still have one. I'm sorry, I haven't seen you. Well, he's also in the rest of the team. Juan Andres Diana, and I work with the Android generator. All right, as Gaston said, in fact, we are representatives, just representatives. The rest of the development team is here, sitting on the front row, and you can ask him many questions. We're going to stop 8:45. She said 9:45. No, it's 8:45. Oh, come on. I thought we were going to stay 2 hours here. That's going to be hard. All right, 8:45. And the other important thing we're going to ask you is that there are many people who are watching this online. This is recorded. So if you have any questions, please raise your hand, and we're going to give you the microphone so that you can participate. And also for the interpretation. It's also important for the interpretation. Thank you. The floor is open. Who's the one who wants to break the ice? The first one is, we can also raise our hands. And the development team is sitting in the first row, but also on the second row. Gustavo, wouldn't you like to break the ice? No? All right. Any questions?
Bueno, esto era todo lo que...
Nos vamos.
All right, very well, that's all. We're leaving. Well, all right. Nothing there. Oh, come on. Over there, first row. Very well. Thank you. Good morning. My first question to you refers to IDE and about the error window, which is quite representative for us. And sometimes, if there were significant errors, but there were no links to identify the timely errors. That's my first question. All right, first row. I'm not sure if you're asking about the error viewer showing you the icon of each specification error, or you're talking about the output window. Output window. That's our friend from the right, on my right. Who's right? I'm not sure what type of error you're talking about, but when there are different processes that we launch, are going to launch an error, if they can, they would send the position of the error and there will put a link. One of the things we've done with our latest upgrades is the output window that's been changed because it had some problems with big things, large things. So there we've included the links. We would have to see what type of error you were expecting to take you somewhere, because many times, and that's what Sebastian was saying and was asking you what type of window it was. What we do here is we put the output of any process that we are putting in the operating system, and sometimes we don't even manage the output. Sometimes the compiler, perhaps we put there, then that's the error that the compiler makes on a line, and it just sends the position. And what we do there, we did some things, select the name of the file, and we can add anything, but many times, but in that case particularly, it's not associated to the object inside. So there are things outside, or there are things of a process mcvil to make a deployment, or we use Maiden to use other things. Those are different types of processes, and the output that you can have there, we really don't know, and so we can hardly make a link to something. Perhaps, as Seba said, it was something different. From out of what we know, it could be a specification error in an object. We do say where it goes, and you can click it, control click, and but that window in the latest upgrade, it's going to get there in the V6. You're going to have a renewed window where searches are going to be much faster. You'll be able to save it. We are saving the logs continuously, so you will be able to look it up in the system and use it without without the editors. Sometimes there was an output there, and it would make you do another build, but now it's saved and it's sectioned. We've done lots of things about the output window. We haven't done anything specifically that is different in relation to the links we put in, because as far as I know, we were putting links in practically all the things that we think we can do and connect it with the KB. If we don't, or I will probably see what we can do better and report. I'm not saying there is no room for it. Thank you. My second question is also about IDE. When you are developing or making a change in a web panel or a panel, and you make a change and you make an automatic rephrase, and then you're doing another task, and you change from a web panel to another one, and perhaps you make a refresh. How can I put it? You lose the changes that you made in a brief instant, and then you lose productivity at a certain point in time. I don't know. We would have to see it. That shouldn't happen. We would have to see it case by case. I didn't understand very well. I understand there is a problem when you say that the web panel is refreshed. Did you touch anything? Yes. For instance, if you change a description, that's in the. You choose the selection because you shouldn't lose the change. What's happened is that sometimes you're touching a control. I don't know if you're referring to that. If you're standing on a control and you change the description or anything of the control, in fact, it is changed, but you lose the selection, and then you have to select it again, but the change shouldn't be that terrible. But we've arranged some of those things, which a change that was that you were losing the selection. I think an issue has been solved about it, but if something else, we'll have to see it, report it, and see it more carefully and reproduce the problem step by step. You know, you can send us a video so that we can understand the step-by-step thing. And my last question refers to patents. When you change a component that is made in the pattern, once you make that change in that component, you can't go backwards. Is that right? In fact, there is an option to reapply the pattern. You go to the option menu and you can go back and have everything in green, back to the default as the pattern was generated. It's reapply pattern or something like that. It's in options. And would you lose everything? Well, no. You can do it on a part of the object or on the full object, the entire object, you know, reapply the entire pattern. So what you apply to that part of the object or the entire object, once again, the definition of the instance of the pattern. But what you want to do is to go back, you know, from the changes you made. Well, then you have the history, the track record of the object, and you can go back in the revisions and go back to any revision that you have saved or that the pattern has saved. So the first level would be to make the inverse change. If you change a property that makes the pattern apply to another object, to another context, and you may look at the object to be generated in the same way. The other thing is to, as Armin said, is go to the history of objects and activate a previous instance of that history. And if you're working with GeneXus server, then it's a change pending commit, and there you can change it. Good morning. I've already asked these questions in previous years, and I don't know if you've done something. Have you integrated anything with objects of query dashboard with PDF generation? Because sometimes customers say, I'd like to see this, and I'd like to be able to send it as a PDF, and you can do this with For Each or... Well, the integration with PDF is still pending. We've got a minimum thing there, but I understand that that's not enough. Yes, pending. Thank you. Good morning. I'm not sure if in version 16 this was available, but when as an integrator, it's easier to make an upgrade if you have 2 or 3 or 4 objects. But if you have 300, there is a possibility of make an upgrade through commit, and it would be good if I had the commit and number such and such, and it would enter the commit and go to the such and such object. I don't know if that's available at the level of GeneXus server. Well, it's not available to make the update of one commit in particular, but you can do it up to 1 revision of the commits, of the pending commits to be revised. You can say, I'm going to make an upgrade up to here or up to there, and that could be a way. Another way is to make a preview of everything that is upgrade pending and select it. For instance, I get a ticket and I get a list of objects, and when there are very many, the object is wrongly written, and I fail there. So one option, I know when you have many objects and it's difficult to manage. Well, the most important thing we're working on is to try and reduce the original problem. that is that delay in processing, that timing. We are working on things trying to optimize the coming and going of objects so that there is information that has already traveled and eliminating and making the processing much more efficient. Perhaps with that, this type of things would simply solve the problem. Master is working on that, on a new technology that we are using for that purpose, reducing the size of what is traveling. It reduces processing, and there is lots of information that we are able to send it and receive it in advance. So whenever you want the upgrade, the most of the information is going to be local in the KB. Excuse me, Armin was saying that, well, that if you have different development lines, you can make researches, and there you do commit by commit. But from what you said, you're doing it. I would like to make a question. I'm not even close to get to 16. Yes, of course. Most certainly you've solved it in 16. But I used to be able to, for instance, modify a procedure that where you go to 50 places, and now I have to go one by one and check and compile, and then it gives you an error whenever you change the interface or parameters. It says error here, error there, and I get angry and upset. And can't you select all and make a build of that without making an entire rebuild of the model? You know, we have a big model of things that different people manage. And for instance, I want to modify something that I know everyone uses, and I would like to I have to make a rebuild of all the objects that are main, and instead of doing it one by one, I look at the list of errors, and if I have to think about that, can it be done? One thing is a build all. I don't want a build all. If I do a build all, I would get things I don't like. The other thing is to build with this only. Your suggestion is good. We've had several. There are several things around the build, which is the set of objects that I need to work on, and to be more flexible and to have different types of queries or to select a group of objects. And your case is perfectly all right. You know, I want only this one, and those that call it up to 2 levels of what they call it. I don't know, different things that you may want. So it's around the set of objects that you're going to choose or select instead of making a selection by date or by. Now, at present, we can search by properties. That could be another way of selecting objects. We have the word object, but it doesn't have that power which cross-referencing. I can select the object that is calling this, or that are calling this or that. We haven't worked on that more than what you've already have, you know, to select the last one, select by properties. And that's good. There are ideas about how to make different sets of objects rapidly. And then on the other hand, you have the options that you want to do in the build, in that group of objects. So sometimes I simply know that I'm going to want to recompile them, or simply specify, or simply generate. You know, of this set I've selected, I only want to compile or select the SDTs, for instance, to do something, or skip certain steps. And we are working on that in upgrade 6. Was it in upgrade 5? The question of custom build. So that you can select different commands out of all those, that someone who is working a lot on the KB knows what GeneXus is doing. And instead of saying GeneXus does from top down, checking patterns, doing this, doing that, doing specify, generate SDT, and so on. And sometimes there are things I don't want to do, that you can create commands with what you only want to do, put a name to it, and use it under the circumstances you want. For instance, there is a case where there are people that before making a transfer to S don't want to do it then, and it say, well, I'm doing this build, but I'm not going to transfer it. Or you can separate, and I can build a command to make build. Another one is to transfer. So a command just to transfer that it's or it's only compiling, things like that. We still have to work on different ways of making sets of objects. There are several users that have already asked us for that. We have thought about it, but we haven't done anything about it. But it hasn't been solved in 16, right? And then when you make a change in the database, which is going to have an impact on everything that you have, can you not specify everything you've got? I mean, it generates millions of LLDs, and I don't want to put it in productive. And well, it depends on the change. In fact, GeneXus determines what objects, depend on those changes in the database. If you don't go SDLs, perhaps that part of the application is not going to work. But if that part isn't used or something, in version 16, you have a new object which is called deployment unit object. In that object, you take and everything that goes into the web app is what you put in that deployment unit. And so if you had to have an impact on what's going into a web app, you make a pack for what goes there. It's not everything that is in your environment. That can help you reduce if you only want to update a web app and not the other one, if you have many. Now, if GeneXus in the build all determined that it had to recompile the LLD, it's because perhaps there is a source there that has changed thanks to the change in that attribute because it went from 20 to 50. No, I'm not saying in a build all. I understand it in a build all. Now, I take one procedure, and if I've changed the database, even for an attribute that I'm not using in the rest, it would go all the LDLs of all the procedures that are using attributes from those tables, even if they're not using the new ones I've added. Perhaps the 16 is not doing it. I'm far from it. Okay, it's touched the table, but the attribute isn't there. Now, what happens there, what GeneXus, it goes to specify and generate, goes back to specify. What it respecifies is those that potentially can change. If I add an attribute and perhaps the navigation changes, I make a new, and then the SQL generated changes to an update, and perhaps that's why you have to specify it again, and probably if it's exactly the same, then it's not generated. It only marks in the navigation that no changes have occurred. But if there are potentially changes, then you have to generate and compile. Okay, all right. But perhaps we have a mistake there. But the thing is that if I add an attribute and the objects that are being used in a table would go into the build process, because it's understood that they may change.
One thing is that they get into the build process, and the other thing is that they generate. Yes, in this case, they won't have to compilate the ADL because they realize that the spec did not change with regard to what happened before. Well, it's a mistake that we have to correct. If we reproduce a case, then we can analyze it. Thank you.
Buen día.
Good morning. The other colleagues said something that, in my opinion, is necessary, so I would like you to do it. Now, I like the color of your shirt, but I would also like GeneXus to work in dark mode. At the moment, we have the option of black color of the black color, and we can put the style in black, but we put it and it doesn't work. So I would like to know how it works and whether there are alternatives, other options with regard to the color. We are working on the IDE. It comes in dark, and we want to keep it like that. At the level of the design, we are also doing a design system not only for the applications generated, but internally we're doing a design system, and we do it with a variation, that is to say, light and dark. And based on that design, then we can also see to integrate it in the common IDE or not, but it's a lot of work. So let's see whether we can do it. In the M is standard. Thank you.
Buen día. Una pregunta.
Good morning. There have been some changes in the pattern or maybe in the attribute, but I generate the action, I add a button, and when I try to compilate and I go to the browser, to Navigator, it doesn't take the action. Can I force it so that I generate the object again?
Lo que se me ocurre es que tengas marcado
Well, the object that you are modifying won't get into the tree. Maybe that is why it happens. Well, sometimes I have a transaction, I add the pattern, and then I add X action or the change in an attribute. When I generate it, I go to the browser, and it doesn't take the change. Sometimes I have to do the rebuild, but I put the objects as rebuild, and when I do the build with this only, then it does take the change. I think that it's what Gustavo says. The action that you should do in GeneXus is right button build for this object, and at that time it is going to do the started object, and from then on it determines the object that it has to do build from the main, including this object, but it has to be in the chain. If it does not happen, there is a mistake in the middle, or GeneXus does not know that this is in the calls tree because there's a dynamic call in between. It should function, otherwise it's an error. Yes, it says build with this only. So it doesn't work with this object? No, when I change the word with it, it does not function, and I have to take the whole pattern or the transaction. Well, we have to see it. It's an error. It should work. We are assuming that the button has been generated. Good morning. With regard to the specifications list, my team requested, for example, that if we do a specification, that there is a way to have a pre and a post specification. That is to say, if there has been a change in a navigation, that we can to be able to see very simply what the change did in the migration of knowledge bases, for example, or to see what happened in the change from one code to another. Are you foreseeing anything in this regard? Well, here Seba is smiling. I don't know why. What you want to do is to compare a previous situation with the situation after the specification. Is that right? And only one screen. For example, that it marks in red the change that took place. This is very useful when you want to see what was there before and what happened after the change in a code, etc. The impact in the navigation. For example, to compare the commit, what is pending in commit, etc. Well, it's a good idea. We don't have it yet. Good morning. I just wanted to ask the following. I have a map and I have a panel and I have 2 points. One point in the map with a route, and in one point the position is being updated. It's moving in a different application. And in the panel that I have, where I have the 2 points, every time the point B moves, the whole map is updated. That's to say, the map moves by itself. So the user zooms, and when the point moves, it goes back to the initial position and it shows point B. Depending on the properties that you have activated, everything is refreshed or not. So I would like just the point B to move, but not to change the position that the user has in the map. iOS or Android? Android. Well, I don't remember what the upgrade is, but we have a new value for the property initial zoom. And what it does is precisely in each refresh, it does not move the zoom or the region of the map it's showing. What's the name? I would have to check the exact value. It's a new value in the combo of the zoom level property, or initial zoom, I believe. It's a new value in that combo. And I have it like that, but as I said, it loads the 2 points, point A and B. When the user zooms and refreshes, it tries the 2 points again. You have it with initial zoom and still it's moving. Well, that would be a bug. We would have to check it. There's a probability that when there is a route like a curve, the route stays outside of the map. So it's not adequate. So even if you refresh, I would like the route to be centered in the map. What we could add is that when you draw a route, the zoom changes to show all of the route. We have not, if we don't have it yet, then we should have it because it's something that's missing. And I'm going to ask another question. I would like a practical example for my own, whether I can make my own control type. Before it was in Android and iOS, and I would also like to use the native language to do my own control type in order to put them in my projects. In GeneXus Lab, we have a project that has an example for Android and for iOS about the user control and how to integrate them in GeneXus. That would be the point of departure, and then the documentation in Wiki that explains what each object does. Yes, and it is documented in the Wiki. In the GeneXus public Wiki, it's documented how to do the extensors and user control for iOS and Android. Well, it's practical. I would like to see it because I have been looking at it, but what is shown in the Wiki is very basic. The examples are the one Jose mentions. They are codes and can be used as examples. Have you seen the example Jose mentioned? With each upgrade, we update the example with Android and iOS. And the idea is that it is used as an example and also as a bootstrap when you want to do a user control, for example, as you said. It has been used widely. It's what we always recommend. If you have any doubts about this example, you can send us a message so that we present as an example about something else. Every time there is a doubt about this example, well, this is a reference example for extensions. We recommend this example, which is jihad.com -GeneXus Lab extension. GeneXus Lab is the organization that we have.
¿Qué tal? Hola, buen día.
Hello. With regard to the use of attributes in the queries, historically it was not possible to use them, and I understand they're not used still. I understand that it would be comfortable to use them. Why cannot use a formula attribute in a query? The formula attributes can be used, but the UDP formulas, for example, the ones that cannot be used because it's a procedure that requires compilation. But any other kind of formula that goes to the database, well, the resolution goes to the selects and it can be used. I don't know whether you are referring to one in particular. I was thinking of one that uses UDP, whether GeneXus has the knowledge to create a sentence and update it. Yes, the procedure may be of any complexity you want, and this cannot be transferred to a sentence. That is why the UDP cannot be used. They are the only kind that cannot be used, if I'm not mistaken, but the rest can. The rest can be used even if they have conditions inside a Zoom, for example. They could be used in a query. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Well, not everything is a complaint or an error, so I want to take this opportunity to thank this great team, because what we see as developers in the IDE is the tip of the iceberg, but underneath there is a lot of effort and a lot of integration of research, etc. And I would like to thank you in my own name for all the effort you have put in this great tool, especially the last upgrade, which is very powerful and good. So thank you very much to the team.
Gracias.
Surgió efecto lo de los halagos.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for this comment. It gives us a lot of energy to be here in this meeting, especially when we get in touch with people who use our tools. And whatever you tell us, help us improve it. So this synergy between you who use the tools and us who develop it, there is this synergy, and thank you very much for your comments. So we are close to the end of this talk. If you don't have further comments or questions right now, but we will be in the hall, so if there's anything that interests you in particular, well, the idea of having this talk is to meeting you, but as you know, this team is growing every year, and the web platform generators, iOS, Android, we are all here. So if you have questions, you can talk to us during the breaks in order to strengthen this communication. And if we cannot answer them, we'll pass on your questions to someone else or put you in touch with whoever can answer them. Are there any further questions? Okay, let's close here. Thank you very much. Thank you all. As Anna said, we are encouraged by your criticism because that allows us to improve our tools. That's why we are here, and we will be in the halls. And we hope that this meeting is an occasion for all of us to learn, so that next year we are together once again with a better GenNexus and more projects. This is what we work for all year round with all our teams, the support teams, the training teams, the testing team. We are all working on this. Just a few of us are here today, but I wish you a very good day right now.